This is a ManeHustle Media podcast.
Yo, this is Sharmane from the Single Simulcast. And when I'm not making you laugh or making up parody songs, I'm kicking back, listening to Militantly Mixed.
Hi, and welcome to Militantly Mixed, the podcast about race and identity from the mixed race perspective. I am your host, Sharmane, aka Mixed Girl Maine, and it's my 41st birthday. Pew, 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 pew. So last week I posted that mini episode that talked about the birthday fundraiser, and I mentioned that I normally have not just like not great days, but like crazy tragic birthdays where like really bad stuff, like legitimately bad life-changing things have happened on some of my birthdays. Sometimes it's just bad days, but mostly there's been a few years of like really, really, really awful days, and I had given up on my birthday optimism last year, and I didn't plan or do anything. I didn't have a plan for this year. I decided not to even talk about it being my birthday as early and often as I had done in previous years. But last week I got a little bit nostalgic for that birthday optimism, and I ended up posting the episode about the birthday fundraiser. The birthday fundraiser is going great so far. We have raised about $215, which is about half of the goal for the soundproofing of the area that I'm trying to do. And if we achieve that goal, I'm going to get that in the works as soon as possible. And if we surpass that goal, then I'm going to start putting that money towards promotion for the show to get more mixed race ears from around the world access to the show or hearing that we even exist. Right now, our advertising is grassroots. It's hashtags, it's tweets, it's Facebook posts, it's Instagram posts, it's sharing friends and families and listeners. And there has been a recent spike in downloads, which is awesome. And I'm very grateful that that is happening. But with all the messages that I receive from all the people who I end up interviewing for the show, people that reach out and just tell me that the show is great, and then I harass them until they participate. The messages are always the same. It's about not having that mixed race representation growing up, or not being visible or seen, not getting to hear their stories, thinking that they were alone in the world and that no one else was like them. And then they get to hear the show, and now they know that there are people like them out there. And that's why this show is so important. It was what I was lacking as a mixed race person, and so that's why I created it. And I encourage everybody out there who is lacking something in their life to create the thing that they lack, so that they can connect and build a community that serves that gap or fills that hole for them. That's what I did, and now I have this sea of cousins that have sparked up in the world of other mixed race people who have been gracious enough to come and share their stories with me, and then of me sharing them with you. So I'm riding a big old wave of amazing mixed ass people, and I love it, and I am not slowing down. Like I said, I think I got shows that'll carry me into mid next year, and we're doing it. But we need to get more people listening, because more mixed people are out there feeling lonely right now, and I need to try to help them not feel lonely, whether that's through talking to me or listening to other people sharing their stories. Whatever it is, we got to get this word out. So that's what the birthday fundraiser is all about, trying to get that extra little bit of cash flow in the bank so that we can start promoting and improving our quality, growing the show, becoming more, I don't want to necessarily say more professional, but this is a business, and I'm an entrepreneur, and we're going to try to get this product out into the world more. That's where I'm at right now. Birthday fundraiser. So we're going to keep that birthday fundraiser going through December 10th, because I had a few messages about people waiting to get paid next week. So if you want to donate to the birthday fundraiser, it is www.paypal.me/militantlymixed. You can go there and drop anything from $1 to anything you want, and it'll go towards the birthday fundraiser. After the 10th, though, the PayPal link is always available at any time. So if and when you ever feel like you want to drop a couple bucks our way, you have that ability to do it. Every penny goes back into the show. I don't take any of the donation money for my own personal needs in any way, shape, or form. Everything goes back into Militantly Mixed. And we also have our monthly sponsorship through patreon.com/militantlymixed. And if you sponsor anything over $5, you're going to start having more access to exclusive content. So in relation to the interview that I'm going to share with you today, there's some extra content that came off of an earlier discussion that my guest this week and I had that I'm going to share at the end of December with our Patreon sponsors at our $5 level or above. So if you want access to some of the behind the scenes or more in-depth conversations, that stuff will start to be available through Patreon at $5 or above. And that is patreon.com/melatoninmix. That's all of that business stuff. I am crazy excited about this week's episode, which I know I say all the time, but you don't even know what we went through to be able to record this episode. My guest this week, her name is Selam Irene Giacomini Jordan. She is an ethnic gypsy of Southern European and Indian descent. So that is a mix of Romanian, Italian, Greek, and French, and probably a lot more, and Indian. She was raised in Italy. Her mother was a refugee from Romania. And when she grew up, she wasn't able to talk about her mixed race heritage or her culture, so she wasn't exposed to her ethnic gypsy culture. And she didn't understand why she was different than everybody. She didn't understand why her behaviors weren't like the kids that she was growing up around, even though that is where she grew up. And she did suffer some bullying and trauma, just like most of us mixed kids do, because of her difference. And then as a teenager, she was able to go back to Romania for the first time for a family funeral. And that was the first time she was exposed to her gypsy culture, and everything clicked into place for her. She finally knew who she was. So she spent some of her young adulthood immersed in that gypsy culture, and has since sort of moved on into a sort of nomadic lifestyle, where right now she is actually residing in Ethiopia, working for a circus. But she has lived all over the world and traveling through what she refers to as sort of the hippie vibe. That is how she has managed to live all around the world. And she's in Ethiopia now. She has limited access to Wi-Fi, so we could only speak at very specific times. And we made it work. And it was an amazing conversation. What I love the most about speaking with Selam was how much it exposed me to what I don't know. I think of myself as very heightenedly aware of difference because of being mixed race, and I think I have a high level of empathy for people that are different from me just because I have been the different one for so long. So usually when I encounter other mixed race people from cultures that I don't connect to, I already feel a sense of kinship with that person because we share this difference from the people that we're around. But like anybody, I have biases or I have ignorance that I'm not even aware of. And until I'm exposed to that new bit of information, I don't know that I didn't know something, right? And we all are this way. And in conversations with Selam, there were times when we would be speaking from our own matter-of-fact experience, thinking that because we are mixed, we shared this knowledge. And we kept getting confused at first. We couldn't figure out what the other person was referring to. And once we would pause and sort of work through what we weren't connecting on, and I don't mean to imply that it sounded negative. It wasn't. It was just like, wait, I'm confused. Explain. That kind of stuff. Once we started to clarify these points that both of us were making that didn't make sense to the other person, we realized that the difference between Western cultures and non-Western cultures make it very confusing sometimes. And so we had to work through some of that confusion to continue having our conversation. And once we would make those adjustments, it would re-inform everything we had already talked about, which was awesome. So I feel like I received more of an education in the conversations that I've had with Selam than I have in any book or TV show or documentary or whatever. Like there was some real world ways of clarifying things that I didn't know. And I thought that was amazing. I hope she had that experience as well, because there were a few points that were confusing for both of us. One in particular, which doesn't make it into the recording you're going to hear, but was a part of our initial conversation. The way we refer to black and white people is totally different, Western and non-Western. For Westerners, a black person is a person who descends from Africa, part of the diaspora, the African slave trade, voluntary immigration as well. But when we refer to black people here, that's what we're talking about, people who have descend from Africa. And when we talk about white people here, we're talking about people who descend from Europe. And for the non-Western world, usually what I'm discovering from our conversations and subsequent research is that most of them refer to the darker skinned people of an ethnic group as black and the lighter skinned people of an ethnic group as white. So specifically, we were talking about India at the time because that's part of her ethnic background. And she was describing the darker skinned Indians as black people and the lighter skinned Indians as white people, even though they don't have African or European descent. Once we clarified that, other aspects of our conversation became a lot more clear. So this just goes to show you, you need to be speaking to people who do not look like you, people who do not come from the same places that you come from, to expose you to what is different about the world. Some of the problems that we face here as people of color in the United States is the opposite issue, the same type of racism or prejudice, but the side of the coin over there. One issue that we talked about is how here in the United States, Black people tend to be almost assaulted by white curiosity of their hair on a regular basis, whether that means a white person reaches out and touches your hair, or asks you questions, or calls your hair nappy. Salam experiences the opposite problem because she is European presenting, a mixed European presenting. She's pale but with dark hair, but she darkens up. She actually looks very similar to a lot of the Ethiopian mixed people, and she says that if she lets her hair be shown, she's chased, and people are reaching out to touch her hair because it's so unusual to the majority Black population there. So it's the same issue, the same problem, the otherness of you based off your hair. But here we're dealing with it white against Black, and there she's dealing with it Black against white. So it's, things that you get a new understanding about when you talk to someone that's from someone else. And I'm so grateful that Salam found the show and reached out and came on, and then, actually shared her story with us, because it's amazing. So before I get over to the episode, we did finish our discussion, and then later on she had emailed me because she realized she had forgotten to share a poem with me she had written during a very difficult time during her dealing with her mixed race heritage. So I'm going to go ahead and read that for y'all, and then we will get into the show. I want to run so fast that my skin will peel off, to run so fast that I'll lose all my hair. Run till my features will be meaningless, so fast that all my bones will dissolve. To run so fast that all of my past and my future will disintegrate, so fast that all will be left is my soul. Nothing but my soul. Free. All right, so we're back to Militantly Mixed, and today I am very honored to speak with my guest who is coming to us from Ethiopia. Thank you, Salam, for joining me on the show.
Thank you, too.
Why don't you introduce yourself and tell everybody about yourself and how you found Militantly Mixed?
Yes, okay. Thank you, too, so much for this opportunity. And so I'm Selam Irene Giacomini Jordan, pretty long, and I know Military Mix from Facebook while I was looking for a mixed people page or group or something to feel comfortable with. And as soon as I saw your post, you reply for me, and so we got in contact like this.
Yeah, I was so excited when you responded. So that post was something that I put up like 5 months ago, trying to get people to come on the show. So when you popped back up as someone commented, I was like, oh yay, I'm so excited. So thank you for finding that and for responding to us. Why don't you tell everybody what your ethnic and cultural background is a little bit, and then we'll get into our conversation.
Yes, so I'm half Southeastern European and half Indian. Southeastern European is divided into 4 ethnicity, which is Italian, Greek, Romanian, and a little bit of French. And then the rest is Indian, which is there is no a direct Indian descendant is Indian because I come from an ethnic group called Gypsies that long time ago had come from India and settled in Europe, mostly in Romania. And then with the time start to mix up, but still now interracial marriage sometimes are not allowed. So you might find still in Europe Gypsy who really, really dark and like Indian, like Black Indian from Rajasthan, because we are original from Rajasthan.
So within the Gypsy culture, there is a divide between the darker skinned people and the lighter skinned people?
No, not really, but there is a very strong behaving rules and things like this. So for a long time, interracial marriage were not allowed. And then recently, like in Romania, it's mostly they start to mix up. So here I am. And it's okay. No, it's okay. There is not too much.
Okay. So why don't you talk a little bit about sort of your upbringing and how your life is in the Gypsy culture?
Yes. So I grew up in Italy because my mother ran away from Romania when there was the communist dictatorship when she was 19. So she came here as a refugee and she stayed a bit in a refugee camp and then start to slowly build her life in Italy, where she meets my father. So for a long time when I grew up, the Romanian and Gypsy we don't even try to talk about was completely cut off from my life. And while I was not allowed to say I'm Romanian, I was not allowed to say Gypsy, like forgot it. It's like in European culture is the worst. I mean, after dog, maybe there is Gypsy. So it's like the worst thing to say. So, and she herself, like to protect herself from so much racism and pre ideas towards Gypsies and Romanian women for too difficult for her. So she also tried to completely cut out from her life too. So when I was little, I was always different and I didn't know why. And I tried to fit in as much as I could when I was little, but I will never fit in really. And always they would make very hard jokes on me. And I had pretty tough bullyism kind of thing in childhood. Yes, where they very, very hard. For the skin color, I'm a bit darker. I'm not too dark, but for them, it's already something, as you probably know also in America. I think it's like this. When you live in a main white people culture, it's like this.
Was it mostly around people that were like fair skin, lighter eyes, blonde hair, and you were dark haired, or was it kind of a mix where you were at too, but you were just darker than them?
Yes, it is a little bit like this, not too much. I mean, you can find some people looking like Arabs a little bit on the southern area, but no, in the area I live, it's island, it's Sardinian island. And no, in the area I live, they were all quite white. Yeah, I mean, people could have dark hair, but the skin is very white. So yes, when, in the winter time, maybe I could blend in a bit more, but when summertime came, I dark up a lot.
Right.
And so everybody called me the little Indian. Even they didn't know, and even me, I didn't know,
Funny.
They sense it. Yes.
Yeah,
they sense it from there. Yes. And also my behave and all my things were very different. So for them, I was always like a very nice game to play with jokes, hard jokes, very hard, like this thing. Yes.
Right. Yeah. I think a lot of us mixed kids, when they can't figure out what they are, but they want to decide for us, that they end up being really mean like that. So, okay. So you're growing up in Italy and you feel unusual. The kids detect that you are different from them, so they treat you like that. When do you start to finally learn? And you said it's taboo in your family to even talk about your mixed heritage. So when do you find out? Is it when you were 16 for the family funeral that you find out about your Romanian and the Gypsy side of your ethnicity?
Yes. So when I was around 16, my uncle died, so I had to flew to Romania, and that was pretty shocking, and it was very beautiful at the same times. And I was never brought there, never talk about it too much. So it was very strong for me and also for them to see me. But it was just 4 days. So after that, I saw them next time when I was 20 something. So it was strong 4 days, but it stays like this for a while. And after that, in that period, I also start to decide not to want to fit in too much. And I would like to add that I was seeing some videos about mixed people and this thing. And one guy who was giving an interview, he did this question to the people, what you did to fit in. And when he did this question, I remembered when I was like around 14, 15, that a lot of, schoolmates, they give compliment to a girl who was very fair, like she was so white, and they will say, oh, she's so beautiful, her skin and something. Mm-hmm. And so I invented that I had like some sickness called photophobia, like that I could not go in the sun at all in the summer, and like, yes. And then I started to put all these like powders, strong white powders on my face. Yes. I just remember that, and yes, for like more than 2 years, I went on like this, like faking I was having photophobia not to get in the sun.
My goodness. And people just accepted it as a thing. What the powder that you put on your skin, did that cause any harm or damage to your skin, or it just lightened?
Foundation. Yeah, no, it's this foundation, I just do.
Oh, okay. Oh my goodness. Wow. It's amazing the kind of things that we come up with just to feel kind of comfortable.
Yeah.
So how did you feel when you remembered that you had done that? What did that do to you?
Yeah, it's like, oh, come on, But I understand myself, and I understand also after that period, I decide, okay, I'm not like them, so just leave it. And then I went to the opposite. Okay, yes, I'm very different. And yes, after when I was 19, I left Italy and I started to travel around the world on a kind of inside travel, like trying to find my roots and things, which I advise for every mixed person to go on a travel on all the land you come from. Yeah. Because it's like a travel inside yourself, really. It's like, oh, here everybody's like me. Oh, also there everybody's like me. It's like, yeah, it's so important to understand yourself better, that you are not wrong or something. It's just mixed things inside of us.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. So how did you manage to do that travel at such a young adult age? Were you already did you already sort of re-assimilate into your Gypsy family, or how were you getting around Europe? And you said you went to India at some point too, right?
Yes, of course. I used to went to India till my childhood because, yes, my mother, she felt this thing, and okay, she didn't want to communicate with the family, but she felt inside of herself for sure. So she always brought me to India when I was 6 and something. So India is inside. Yes, of course. And when I was 19, I was... I come from a very little village, so I also wanted to know the world and this thing, and I went on this kind of hippie vibe traveling. Yes, and yes, when I went to India also when I was much bigger and I could understand much things, I just saw so many things from myself, and I started to take back some of my cultural things, like for example eating with hands, as I already we talked before. This was very strong for me because it came so naturally, and I just felt that the whole time I was forced to use this instrument that somebody else put me to use, while it was so natural for me to eat with my hands. So from that travel on, I continued to eat with my hands and not accepting anymore other people who want to impose culture on. Right.
So can we talk a little bit about the eating with the hands? So I know there are a number of cultures that do this, and in particular, it's not just that like you are by yourself eating with your hands, but it's a whole thing, sharing the food with the people around you and everything like that as well. Was that part of what touched you?
Yes, of course. So many things. Also, every people in India sit on the floor, and to me I always did that, and I always no, I should sit on this chair because European culture is like that. And I how you call this thing, I was when the parents say no, don't do like this, how call you this thing when they
when they're they admonish you, they tell you to stop?
Yes, like this kind of thing. Yes, so always for sitting down and for doing things sitting on the floor and for doing things a certain way. And when I went to India, everybody's sitting on the floor, and I'm like, okay, yes, of course, this is my place,
So you feel represented just by happening to go to a place that does this. You felt like some kind of representation, and it came really natural to you.
Yes, of course, because our things who are boiling inside our blood, And when you are on the wrong place, or like, let's say, in the place that represents you less, you feel wrong. But when you go in the place that represents you more, you just say, okay, yes, of course. I mean, that's the thing. Mm-hmm. Everybody do like what I feel.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you told me when we spoke before, you mentioned that at the time you had finally gone back to Romania and sort of got exposed to that side of the Gypsy side of your culture. Was the age where you should have been married off or something like that, right? What was the reason why you left Romania the next time?
Yes, so I went to visit my family in Romania when I was around 20. But I can't stay there too much long, and I can't stay also throughout Romania or too much in contact, because there is Gypsy family everywhere in Eastern and also in Italy. So I cannot too much stay in contact with the Gypsies because there are rules. For example, there are still like some strong rules. When girl got her first period, when she's around 12 or something, she might be in cell to some older men, or, things like this. There is so many, like, as most of the people don't go to school, don't know how to read and write, there is this kind of things who are still in the culture. So yes, of course, when I go there, everybody try to marry me off. And I'm like, no. Yeah. And, also Gypsy men, and also my grandfather is a big example of this. Can be quite violent, so I wish I can get more in contact and live more with my Gypsy tribes all over. It doesn't matter if it's by my blood family, Gypsy is Gypsy. I can stay also with another family of Gypsy, but it's too difficult when it's like this. I grew up in Italy, so it's difficult to want to go towards that.
Right, and I understand. Even in Italy, where you say there are other Gypsy groups as well, they have the same type of rules, and so even if you were to go back to Italy, that would be the same thing?
Yes. If I want to go inside a Gypsy group or tribe or clan in whatever place in Europe, because there is all over Europe, it will be more or less the same story. So, yes.
So how does that feel? Like you've said it several times, and I feel the same about my cultures as well. This sort of like what you said, boiling in your blood. Like it heats up when you're closer to your people, and you feel more connected. So how does that feel when you really want to be around them, but because some of their rules or their cultural structures are sort of against you as an independent woman, you can't do what you want to do? Like, how does that feel that you still need to have connection to it, but you can't because of those circumstances?
Yes. That's why I guess I'm in Ethiopia, because for me he's a middle path in between all things.
Right.
So yes, I feel like how you like little, not frustration, but I wish maybe if I believe in reincarnation, maybe another life. I don't know. Yeah. Yes, I wish I could be also more active inside of the Gypsy community. I don't know. I think my mother, she passed me a lot of fear and a lot of detachment, in our family. As I told, my grandfather was a very, very violent person. So I guess I'm afraid, because also women cannot speak up too much,
Right. And so you not only do you become very independent, you're traveling the world by yourself, and you're seeking out all of your different cultures and everything like that. So to suddenly be in a position where you're giving up that independence would be probably even extra difficult if you weren't raised directly in it the whole time.
Exactly.
And so Ethiopia offers you that middle ground where you can feel like you get aspects of your culture, or at least activities within your culture are present in Ethiopia, but you also have the freedom to be more independent as well while you're there?
Yes, exactly. Because Ethiopia is a little bit mixed between Arabic culture and African, another African country's culture, and it have a little bit his own reality. And when I saw Ethiopian for the first time, I thought they were gypsies. So
Because you look
yes,
very
of course.
similar.
Yeah, with some people, yes. Also, there is traditional tattoos that also Gypsy can have. Yeah, there are similarities definitely also in the culture, and there is a better part. There is a lot of respect here, rules of respect. The people here can be very polite. I mean, the Ethiopian culture is very nice. So I really fit in very much, to surprise of them. That on the other side, Ethiopia have also another side, which for them is difficult to see how I fit in because they have other idea of me here.
Right.
So yeah, that we can talk later. So yeah, to me, it's nice. And also as a woman, like here, yes, of course, there is woman problem everywhere in the world. Also in the civilized country, there is still women killed here and there. So yeah, it's not perfect, but as a woman, it's not like maybe an Arabic country where I lived. Here, I can walk in the street alone. I can wear a little bit, not too short skirt, but a little bit, like I can do whatever I want. It's okay. And the men's are not harassing, are fine. Like, yes, not sexually harassing, definitely not.
So when we were speaking before, you mentioned something that I had never heard before. You said that in Ethiopia, they refer to their mixed race people as half caste. And so I looked it up a little bit to kind of understand. And from my research, it turned out this is actually a really common term in a number of other countries. It's just not something that we have here in the States, so I'd never heard it. How are their half caste or their mixed race people treated in Ethiopia, and how does that affect you? Because for them, you're not only mixed, but you're also a foreigner.
Yes, exactly. So here we go on the other side of the coin. So now we have talked about what you probably must know in America, a predominant white race society, and how the outsiders or the mixed or whatever is treated. So that's what we know. And then there is the other side of the coin. And here is a prevalent dark skin country, because we cannot even say too much black, because Ethiopians themselves are a mixed race.
Right.
And that's the thing, but they don't know, because it's like a very, very long thing. So they mix between themselves and they create this ethnicity, which is Awesha, which is in Djibouti, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Somaliland, Somalia, and a little bit of South Sudan. And so, yes, what is the reality of the mixed race here and the foreigner? So there is a big story of love and hate, which we all can understand, of course.
Right.
It's a non-colonized country, but of course, white people, they try to come here and do something. Sometimes Italians, they were here for 5 years. So there is a little bit oppression, like there was war and things. So they know this, but it's a non-colonized country still.
Right.
So there is like this love and hate. It's a big story of love and hate, which is so mixed, And so, yes, the foreign here, for example, for them, there is one word, and it is Farangi, who refers to all, like, whatever else is lighter than them. Or, I don't know, like any European, any Arabs, any Chinese people, and any, I don't know, like anybody.
Right. Okay.
Everybody.
Okay.
So also it's very difficult to try to explain to them, wait, I'm not that, Here, as soon as they see you light skin, you are like European and you are rich or like European standard kind of things, So you are very rich and you should do this, and that. And there is a big box, a very strong box, which you should be there, So with me, they go crazy because I don't fit in the white people box, and so they don't know where to put me, It's so weird for them. Yeah. I make them crazy because when I come here, I was so poor, sorry to say, but I lived also some years in the street. So when I came here, I was really so poor. So for them, it was shocking to see someone, from the white box who should be rich and this and that, and see me like that. And they cannot even recognize too much the difference between like a white German people or, like some white people and from the mixed, like this kind of things. Even themselves, there is lighter skin. Of course, there is people of my skin and lighter than me here and they call it white.
Yeah, so that was actually something really interesting that you and I talked about last week. And all week long, I have been talking about you to my friends and explaining our experience talking. And everybody I've spoken to that are born and raised here in America, whether they're white or black or anything else, they're all shocked by this idea. So this is very much the difference between, I guess, being a Westerner, is that when you described that anybody who is of darker skin is considered black and anybody who is of lighter skin is considered white, here that doesn't make sense to us, because anybody who's considered black here is of African descent. So somebody whose ancestors were taken on the slave trade and brought here, those are the black people. And then anybody who descends from Europe, those are the white people. And so if you're a light-skinned mixed person, if you're biracial, black and white, you're still black for the most part. But you described your confusion watching the movie Dear White People with the lead actress, Tessa Thompson, being biracial. You were trying to figure out why the white girl wasn't talking about white issues. And I told that to some of my friends, and all of us were so surprised. So it makes sense why that movie didn't make sense to you, but it made sense to us because our experience, Tessa's experience in the movie, is very similar to my experience here in America as a mixed black and white, and I'm also a Japanese person who identifies as black, and that was so different from you. So I would like to talk about that a little bit with you because it's so new. I want to learn more about that. So can we talk a little bit about why you're confusing to Ethiopians, because you look similar to them, but you're a little on the light side, but you can get darker and then you look even more like them, but you're not black. So can we talk a little bit about that?
Yes, of course. So yes, this is the thing, like what to say. Yes, of course. There is, if you start to talk and have a conversation, yes, you can go in the details and they can divide they see the difference of the lights, and there is different name, there is the shades, and there is different name. For example, but it's the same like white. So all the light skin are referred in Amharic as Kai. Kai means red. Red. Yes. But red is referred for the white people who had come here, these very light skinned people, like white people who with the sun, they got red. So they start to call Kai red people. And so wherever he is light skin is Kai. And then there is like this bunicle, brown color, brown color, mainly Ethiopians, there is this brown colors. And then the one who are black also, who are like dark, and also for neighbors, African countries, it's hard also for them because they do are racist also with them and with the very black. Because of course here is any like India or whatever like dark skin area of the world, I think apart America and maybe in South America, yes, everybody give much more value for the light skin and less for the dark skin.
Right, yeah.
Yes, so that's the culture. So, for example, in a family, in the rural area, if a sister from the family, she will be darker, she will be the one who work harder and who will make all the chores. And if you are light skin, you will get like a better treatment.
Yeah,
yes.
that seems to be in every single culture, and a lot of our cultures. So like Indians and Asians and different parts of the descendants of Africa that are here on the Western Hemisphere. So the Caribbeans, the Black Americans, North Americans, South Americans, the Afro-Latin X community, their darker skinned people are all, looked at worse than the lighter skinned people. Lighter skinned people are valued for their beauty, and so there's a lot of skin lightening, sort of like you were talking about when you were younger. So there's a lot of products that are in these communities, Jamaica, China, India, where they're always trying to lighten their skin, which causes, it's more than just the damage to your physical body, but like the psychological, the mental damage to not being good enough and having to try to fix yourself, even though, and I don't mean fix, but that they have this view of feeling like they need to fix themselves so that they can be lighter. So really the darker skinned children have to work harder, and the lighter skinned children, are they valued in terms of like you can marry the lighter skinned girl to a more upscale family, or how are they allowed to get away with?
Yes. In the rural area now, me, I live in Addis Ababa, and Addis Ababa is less, but I mean less, little bit less than and strong than the rural area. But yes, I mean yes, you can get maybe a better job. For example, if you see any Ethiopian movies, all the light skinned people are in the movie, and people from another African country, they think white people is living in this country, you know. So I mean, I think this thing, yes.
Wow.
Yes, so when they got, for example, about the half-caste situation, so these poor half-caste people here, because must say that, yes, most probably an Ethiopian would like to marry with some foreigner, or most probably white people to get a light-skinned child because it's more beautiful and everything. But the life of this light-skinned person here is also mine, because I look very much like a mix of Ethiopian and some European. So it's very hard, because they will never think of you as you are Ethiopian, for example.
Right.
And they will always treat you different. And I mean, that's very hard. I have a friend of mine, and I think for him, it was very, very hard growing up on a public school. It was very hard, because also most of half-caste live a different life. That must be said. And most of white people here live a different life, because here there is also another difference, which is poor and rich. And it's a big gap. So the half-caste, they might go to rich schools and things, so they never got mixed with Ethiopians. So they are always seen different, and always people surprised if you're talking Amharic, I think it's pretty hard. Me, I take it, okay, yes, I grew up in another country, but for the people who born here and they are half Ethiopian and they learn everything here, their life is here, they are Ethiopian, but when they walk in the street, they will never be recognized as Ethiopian. It's too hard. Hard,
Wow.
Yes.
So you mentioned something about because you confuse people there and they think, maybe you are the Ethiopian version of the half caste and everything, that they're curious about you. Like, you get people that are curious about your hair, and they do they want to touch your hair or touch you or anything like that, touch your skin, or is it just the comments that they say about you?
Yes, comments every day, all the time. The touching thing, yes, I got one child not too long ago who saw me in the street, and I always keep my hair covered. But the day I have long hair, so I make a braid and a little hair you can see, and some kid ran from far and catch my hair.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I want to jump it on hair. And when you go to the rural area, that's really hardcore things. I mean, you got children running after you, people entire village coming to you, touching your skin and everything. And if you speak the language, it's even oh my God, you speak the language, and
right.
It's really hard. I mean, I cannot blame too much, because of course past government and things, people don't have too much chance of see different differences, and also education,
Right.
I mean, there is still very low educational system because of the government, past government we had. So yeah, it's not all the fault of the people, but it's still very hard.
It's hard for you as the individual who has to be the other end of that curiosity. Yeah.
Yes, it's an everyday war. Even yesterday I got very hardcore things again on the bus. It's an everyday war, really. It's very tiring. But I mean, here they are more explicit, and actually I like it, that I know from far away who is who. In Europe, it's very fake. So I might have got friends, or people try not to show their things, but there are still races there. And every time I go in Italy, everybody don't believe I'm Italian, and they ask me if I'm Moroccan or if I'm something else.
Right.
So yes, here is tougher because it's more explicit, but still I prefer.
No, I agree with you. I do, because so here in America, or the United States specifically, people like to say that the only part of America that is racist is our South, because that's where the historical slavery was more predominant and things like that. And it's still a part of the country that is kind of, I guess we would say sometimes backwards in terms of the deep South and the divide between the black and the white people down there. But my personal experience, I grew up in California. So I grew up in a very liberal, free, open type of place, but the subtle racism is here, and it's crazy. So I prefer being in a place where somebody does just kind of, not violently, but it still calls it out, because then I know who you are. I know how to deal with you now, versus the person like here in LA, especially here in Los Angeles where I'm at. It's a lot of smiling, a lot of people telling you that you're so beautiful and they wish they look like you, and you're so exotic, and I'm so jealous that you look that way, that you have the best of all the cultures or whatever. But then, later on you find out they've been talking about you, racistly or bad, or whatever. And you're just like, you just wish, then don't interact with me. If if you feel this way, don't bother yourself with me and it'll be fine. But in other places where racism is more out in your face, you at least feel like what neighborhoods not to go to, and and like what people to avoid.
Yes.
But there are parts in our northern areas that have always been considered non-racist, because that was the side of the country that fought in the war to free slaves. There, like Boston is some place that I live, that's a very racist city, but people always think that it's not because it's in the north. So we have really screwed up ideas here in the States about where is racism, where isn't. The whole place is. It's just that there's some places where it's more direct in your face. And in that case, if it's not violent, but it's just someone showing you their hate, that is, in a weird way, more comfortable, because at least you know who you're dealing with. So I agree. I laugh about it too, like the way you kind of laugh when you said it. I kind of do too, because you don't know how to you don't know how to explain why that makes you more comfortable. It just does,
Yes. Yes, I understand perfectly. Yes, of course. Definitely. Because I know the European culture, and for me it's much harder, and also because there is this big law. For example, in Italy, on the Western European country, they say, yes, everybody is equal and this and that. There is like this big law. And for example, so when I was little, there was a Senegalese girl in our class. So everybody want to do like racist thing, because it was like a taboo things, but still they will think in certain way, towards her, or behave in certain way, like to make her far or something,
Yeah.
So yes, I do prefer explicitity, even if sometimes, like some breath, because sometimes even with my close friend, it's like a big wall, which they can't take it down. But this, I guess, it's a little bit more an Ethiopian problem, even because they have a big ethnic problem between themselves. So maybe it's just Ethiopia. I didn't see too much in other African country, but people told me it's less.
Well, because isn't it the case that in Ethiopia, there's a lot of different people that have come into the country? So there's like a big Chinese presence and a big Indian presence and things like that. So is that true that there's a sort of heavy foreign influence, and that kind of like increases the awkwardness of the race relations there?
Not really. There is a lot of Chinese and there is a lot of Indians that we don't see, because as I told you, there is also the big difference between the rich and the poor. And these people come here. Yes, these people come here to work, and so they work for big companies and things like this. So who see them? They always travel in big cars and things. So you never see them walking in the street, like rarely.
Right.
You won't say there is like that much, but we know there is a lot. But yes, that's another story. But no, they don't really affect the culture. Just that when I walk in the street, people even can say China.
Oh, really? They'll just call whatever's the different thing. You just are that.
Yes.
Yeah, that happens to me too.
I start to joke on them. Yes. Some people start to ask me, okay, where are you from and something, and I start to joke on them. I'm like, I'm Chinese, and I make them believe. Yes.
So you told me you speak 5 different languages. Is that correct?
Yeah, 6.
No, 6. What are all the languages like? Where did you pick them up as you moved around, or were you learning them your entire life?
Yes, 5 of them is Latin rooted languages, so I have to say it's pretty easy. Okay. So it's Italian, Spanish, French, and Romanian, and then English, and then Amharic, the language of Ethiopia.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's another part that it makes the U.S. really behind everybody else, is that we don't start teaching different languages until we're in high school. So we're 15, 14 before we get access to a new language. And it's a little bit harder for our brains to learn to think in both languages. And we end up giving up by the time we're out of college. So if we, for those that go to college, so a lot of people, you don't get a lot of it here unless you're raised within a culture. And even in my case, my Japanese side, my grandmother is from Japan, and she came to the United States at a time that there was still a lot of racism against Japanese because of World War II. And this was this is like 20 years later, but there was still that racism. So the military, she married, my grandfather was a white military guy. She married him, and the military told her, don't teach your children Japanese because you'll confuse them. And she never taught my mom and her sisters. And so by the time I come around, she still didn't want to teach me Japanese. So I only know a little bit of Japanese from home, and then I struggled in school to try to learn, and I still don't have a very good grasp of Japanese, just a little bit, and like I understand more than I'm comfortable speaking and everything like that, but not having that exposure, throughout our entire lives, it makes it really difficult for Americans to pick up other languages, unfortunately. Do you struggle with the Ethiopian language, or does it come?
Yeah, it took me a while, of course, also because I didn't go to any school and anything, and it's a Semitic language, is completely different from the Latin. So yeah, it took me a while, but now.
How long have you been there?
Now it's 4 years.
Oh, okay. So let's talk a little bit about your life. So when you first contacted me, you said that you work in a circus, and it's a traveling circus, correct?
No, we just recently through a crowdfunding have bought a tent, which is now making her first tour in another cities here in Ethiopia. But no, it's a fixed circus. It's a social circus. So we work also in the hospital with the smile medicine, and all, like the smile Dr. Clown.
Okay.
So we do like this, and we are also artists and train, go on tours, times.
What sort of things are at your circus? Because I'm wondering if your circuses and our circuses are similar.
Yeah, of course. It's like circus, like any other circus. We don't have animals. We are enough animals by our own. So yes, it's just like we are acrobats and aerialists and clowns and, circus things.
Okay.
We are not so much big. We are not so much little for Ethiopia.
I see.
And so, yes, and in this circus, I experience all the races, like the whole thing. Like my life is about races, I guess.
Right.
Because it's founded from a woman, Italian woman, who she's married with an Ethiopian. So I got from her all the Italian kind of thing. And I got from the whole thing, the Ethiopian kind of thing. So it's very hard because here, for example, I not have been sent into tours, or I don't have chance as others to get a job or to do something because I'm light. And sometimes they say they want to sell this African image in Europe or abroad, or in some shows. So I don't fit in, but doesn't make sense, but there is this thing here. So I suffer from this on this side. And then I suffer from something that I just felt understood while I was reading one of these mixed people struggles, post somewhere, which somebody say, somebody push you to pick a side. So the Italian woman pushed me to pick the Italian side. For her, I'm Italian. She don't see anything else. I should behave like an Italian and everything. When I don't, she feel like, why are you like this?
Like you're almost betraying Italy by not behaving that way.
Yes, exactly. Oh my God. Yes, exactly this. Exactly. She make me feel like this. And I'm like, and even she's so hard on me on this thing. For example, we recently had an interview from CNN. People came here to make a report about the circus. And they were asking for interviewing some people. And, she make it like a joke, but it's always hard. And she's like, okay. And also Salam, she want to make this, but she's white.
Oh, gosh.
Okay. Also this thing that she want to push me and she joke of me. And sometimes she say, but you are not so dark, And he's like, yes, Yes, like I fit in this society so much. I don't make any effort because that's what also in my mother, true, she want to keep her things far in. I've been raised differently from the European culture, so I've been raised different, and that's who I am, and all what I do is what come naturally to me.
Right.
But she start to think like that I want to act like them, you know, or sometimes you feel like I want to be darker or something, you know, and you know, I like she drive me crazy, really. She do drive me crazy,
right.
And she make me feel bad, you know. Sorry, yeah. I grew up in an island, and I grew up also in the rural area, and there is close the beach, and I always was outside, and I'm always used to be on sun or things, and I love it. And I have to say the truth, when I see myself too light, I feel like I'm sick or something. You know?
I feel the exact same way. I feel the exact same way.
Even I got this yellowish color that everybody does like. You're rose, but you are yellow.
Yeah, I'm almost like apologizing that I'm so pale. Like I'm like, well, I get darker, or I was darker when I was younger, or something. But it's a weird kind of like like I feel like I have to apologize that I'm pale right now.
You know, you don't, but you know, it's like something. I'm used to see my skin dark because I used to spend a lot of time outside. So when I got pale here because I don't spend any times outside, you know, I feel strange. So sometimes I do like to stay 5 minutes in the sun, and when I do that, she make me feel bad, like I'm trying to be black or something, you know.
Wow.
And I know, sorry, but sorry. I just have to say for somebody this thing because nobody can understand me.
No, it's no. I think I know you're concerned about that, but I think you're far clearer than you give yourself credit for. It makes a lot of sense. There's a lot more that you and I have in common than I expected we would when we first started talking. I think we have a lot of the similar, even though the act itself is different, the experience of how we feel or how we've responded to the situation, it comes off very similar to me. I think but I tell you, there's a lot that you've said that is really similar to how I feel too, or how I've responded to something. That it just amazes me that mixed people have this, we have a very similar experience. You just put us in a different country, and I think we'll feel very similar.
Yes. This is why I like to join this thing, because, you know, I feel that, yes, we do have a lot of things in common, of course. Yes. Yeah. So, yes, that's how life is going over here. So half of my life I spend it on races to be dark and gypsy, and half to be white and European. Right. So I got the races from the whole range of the whole spectrum of my
right.
Mixed.
It almost feels like you have to, like you even said it, I don't know if you meant to, but it just kind of came out. You said my life is about races, I guess, when you're talking about your life with the circus. And I feel that way too. Like I feel that if I'm working and it's primarily white people, I feel like I have to be almost an ambassador for all the other things that I am, all, you know, the Japanese and the black, because I want them to say, like, you know, see, she's okay, so let's bring more people of color here because they're not as bad as I thought. And I hate that I feel that way, but I have felt like that from the time that I started working in a business environment. So I always felt like it was my responsibility to show that, like, I could be a person of color that is safe, and that as now that I'm older, that makes me really upset. But when I was younger, that was all I did, is try to make white people feel like it's okay to be around people of color. Now that I'm older, I'm just like, I don't care if you're uncomfortable. You know, like, this is who I am. I need to just be who I am. And sometimes I'm professional and sometimes I'm not, and that's just it. But it took a long time. I'll be 41 in a few days, so it took 21 years of adulthood for me to get to a place where I'm finally comfortable to just be like I am. And if it makes white people uncomfortable, or if it makes other people uncomfortable, depending on where I'm at, I typically get racism more from white people than I do from other people. Although I get it from Asians as well, because Asians don't like to have mixed race people either. So, you know.
Yes, I know. Yes.
So I get it a little bit from there, in things of like having to keep it a secret from my Japanese family that were Black growing up and stuff like that. But not as much now as an adult. I don't get to see as many Asian people where I work now. So yeah, it's just this thing of like you just feel like every day I am all the races. Like I have to be all the races today. Something you said made me think of that. But is there anything else before we wrap up that you really want to say to your audience about your experience or anything?
Maybe something little. Yes, first of all, really, I'm so happy to have this platform to can speak about it, even like to how to say, just like to free yourself from some things and to start to feel normal again for a while. And so as I heard a little bit about us mixed people, we got mistaken for so many things. And while I was traveling, I traveled quite a lot, so I got mistaken for everywhere, and everywhere I don't really feel like home, and part in the Gypsy community, but for reason I cannot stay there. Mm-hmm. So yes, a little bit like what we were speaking, like, and also I was seeing like another documentary when the title was The Other Race. So yes, like I tried. Okay, I was not feeling home, and I was not feeling part of them when I was in Italy, and then I went through all over my scale of things inside other races and things, and also there I don't feel belonging, that sense of belonging too much strong, and here no. And for example, recently I also been to Morocco. While there I really look like a Moroccan, like I can be Moroccan really much, but also there they sense it that I'm not somehow, maybe because sometimes also when I speak I can't speak proper the language, right? So but I just don't, I can't say I belong to anybody of them, anybody, and I do belong to everybody. So like we are this new race, like we have to belong to this, like to our new things, to the mixed race people. And if there is not a name who represent us properly, we should make it one. And I think that, yes, maybe this big lack of sense of belonging I had through all my life, and maybe even the reason I got so upset with all these races is because of the sense of belonging. I make a little example. Recently, a friend of mine, Ethiopian, he went to Cambodia and he experienced some races towards him. And then he told me, yes, but when I was there, I remembered I am Ethiopian and I love my Ethiopian and something. And then he feel good and he don't care of whatever is going on around him because he have this strong sense of belonging. And when I told him, yes, but can you try to understand me? I don't have any place to say, yes, that's my thing, Right. And so I feel like belong to something that gave me a strength. But maybe now, which is, I think is a problem for all of us, maybe now this space, this us can be our sense of belongings. And when we receive from all the world this thing, maybe we can say, yes, but I belong to the mixed race, or I don't know how to call it. Us,
That's the worst part, is that we don't know. We want something like that, but we don't really know what to call it, because even within our mixes we are all so different, but we have such similar experiences that, like, I have more in common with you than I do probably with someone who is Japanese, even though I'm mixed with Japanese, or someone who's full Black American, even though I'm mixed with Black American, or white or Irish, any of the other things. Like, I have more in common with you, even though we're not mixed the same.
Yes.
So I agree. Yes. Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Yes, so maybe through all the people who is hearing us and who is mixed race, you and whatever is our friend, we should start to build a community and support each other. And yes, of course, when we need to speak about our struggles, it's very nice because we can understand better each other. But also maybe, like, as I was saying the other day, like, what is our beautiful things? Like, what is our amazing? We are so unique. Nobody is like us.
Yeah. And it can be very
so
beautiful.
Yes, we are like a bridge from all the worlds, and we can create like different realities and teach our children differently with all these realities,
Yeah.
My God, when I think I will give birth to my child, most probably I will marry an Ethiopian because I intend to live here. So what with this child will be, will be so sad. So how I will teach about his this mixedness, like to give him or her this sense of belonging. Yes, you do belong to the mixed people. And you have all these beautiful things, and you will face maybe this struggle, but you have all these beautiful things. So maybe also we can make this community to talk about also our beautiful things and what can we bring to society that there is no.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think I'm so grateful. I can't tell you how excited I am to get a chance to talk to you a second time, and I hope that we talk again many times, because your story is so interesting, and yet there's so much about what you've said that I feel like I've had a similar experience too. And we grew up on opposite sides of the world, and I'm so grateful that you shared your story with me. Most of my guests so far have been in Canada, the United States, the UK. I have one guest that is based out of Vienna. So right now you're the person who's the farthest away from where I live. And so to be able to expose your experience to our audience, I think is very important, because, and in particular, maybe not all Westerners, but maybe yes, all Westerners, but certainly all U.S. Americans tend to not be able to see other people's experience as I guess kind of like your Italian boss, that idea of like, well, why don't you behave this way? This is the way you're supposed to behave. You get that a lot here. So getting a chance to expose our audience to your story and your experience I really think it will open up a lot more opportunities for all of us to kind of connect to people from all over the world. So I very much appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with me. I hope that you come back on and we can talk again as you get further into your life in Ethiopia and the different experiences that you're going to have then. So yeah.
I'm so grateful. Okay, thank you to you and for this beautiful place.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. That's it for this episode of Militantly Mixed. Thank you all for joining me on this mixed race journey. And don't forget to be your mixed ass self. Militantly Mixed is a ManeHustle Media podcast, produced and hosted by me, Sharmane Johnson. Music is by David Bogan, The One. And if you like what you heard on Militantly Mixed, please subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes and wherever you find your podcasts. ManeHustle Media. Turn your side hustle into your main hustle.